On February 26, 2021, Sony shuttered Japan studio. For years, this team gave us original games like Ape Escape, Gravity Rush, Legend of Dragoon, and Loco Roco. They would also partner for games like Parappa the Rapper, Shadow of the Colossus, Everybody's Golf, Bloodborne, and Tokyo Jungle. Now, the writing had been on the wall for some time. Japan Studio's output had been greatly diminished, with only Gravity Rush and Knack having original productions in the PS4 era. They were involved with the likes of Bloodborne and The Last Guardian, but it was nothing compared to the past. Prior to any official claims of the studio closing, many key staff had already begun to leave. We're talking the producer of Bloodborne, the director of Wild Arms, the character designer for Cat and Gravity Rush, the list goes on and on and on. And so when Sony eventually came out to say that Japan Studio had been absorbed into Team Asobi, how much of that was actually true? Well, we can tell by numbers. In 2021, Team Asobi was a 35-man team, but they grew to 60 in 2022. If we assume that growth is all Japan Studio and no new hires, which it probably is not, that's still only 25 additional members, and Japan Studio was a team of over 200. What this essentially means is Japan Studio is not a thing anymore in any capacity. Yeah, a few staff members did remain at Sony, but not very many. In fact, Metal Lord over on the FamiBoards forum has found multiple staff members jump ship to Nintendo EPD and Monolith Soft. We're talking Bloodborne's lead map artist, who's now on Xenoblade 3. An incredibly long-term Japan Studio sound designer made their way to Splatoon 3. There's quite a lot of examples, but if you're highly regarded Japanese talent, where else would you go? It's either that, or do your own thing. And that's what a lot of creative talent is doing. Many of your favorite PlayStation memories are still living on, maybe divorced of Sony's budgets, but thriving in the creative freedom they were no longer given. So, let's check out what they're up to. Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian are video game art in their purest form. The studio began as Team Ico, a team within Japan Studio. But during the development of The Last Guardian, director Fumito Ueda left to form his own company, Gen Design. They were still contracted by Sony to finish The Last Guardian, but the team themselves were now independent. Gen Design's first non-Sony game will be published by everyone's favorite Epic Games. We've only seen a tiny glimmer of this game through concept art, and it's not much to go on. It seems to follow the same kind of man and giant theming. We should hopefully see Ueda's next game sometime soon, but either way, the benefit of the doubt has been more than earned. Recently, two major Sony properties have returned under different names. This is Wild Bunch, a new development team who've put together a double Kickstarter for Armed Fantasia and Pennyblood. Basically, for both games to live, just this one Kickstarter needed to succeed, and let's just say they cleared the £600,000 budget. Wild Bunch is made up of developers of both Shadow Hearts and Wild Arms, and both are looking absolutely incredible. Many publishers just aren't interested in JRPGs these days. Armed Fantasia's director approached Sony with this idea multiple times, but they simply didn't want it. So, here it is without the Wild Arms name. Both games are currently set for PC, Xbox, and PlayStation 5, although if a more powerful Nintendo console comes out around the time of this game, then it will likely end up there too. You can still back these games if you want to, I mean they're already very successful, but more support is support all the same. I am a big fan of Everybody's Golf, and just like every other Japanese Sony property, it's dead now. The developer Clap Hands had never made a game without Sony. Their 20-year history, what kept them going was this one series. But right after Japan Studio closed their doors, Clap Hands just happened to stop working with Sony as well. They ended up making their first game without PlayStation in the form of Clap Hands Golf for Apple Arcade. And John repeatedly said, "Put it somewhere else!" And eventually it happened. In the most recent Nintendo Direct, but not our one, only the Japanese one for some reason, Clap Hands resurfaced with Easy Come, Easy Golf, and it launched globally that very day on the eShop. The UI and menus still have a lot of mobile flair, but the pure gameplay itself is just Everybody's Golf. The gimmick with this one is you golf as a team. Every hole you rotate to the next golfer, and they've got different strengths, like better backspin or better putting. It's a great game, one of the best golf games on the Switch, and it's just mad seeing the Clap Hands logo appear on a Nintendo system. These are the rival golf guys. Nintendo's got Mario Golf, PlayStation's got Everybody's Golf. In fact, Camelot started Everybody's Golf. This is just a full circle. We've got Camelot and Clap Hands on one system. Is this legal? Is it legal? I don't think it is. Not every studio trying to find independence has been successful, unfortunately. Nanon, sure, the developers of Parappa the Rapper, Jamalami, and Vib Ribbon haven't had much help from Sony for some time. So, in 2017, they teamed up with the developers behind Guitaru Man to make a rhythm rap game called Project Rat Rabbit. But the backing only reached £161,000 of an £855,000 goal, so not even close. The studio's done nothing publicly since then. But that's not the end of Sony's old rhythm games. This is TVT, a studio made up of former Patapon staff and also God Eater. They're currently working on two things. This is Project Shaz, much more God Eater and Freedom Warsy, but this is Project Jabberwocky, directed by the same director as Patapon. These games were only announced this year, so details are pretty sparse, but look, give it to me. Lastly, we have Team Gravity, a group within Japan studio who gave us Siren and Gravity Rush. The director was also responsible for the very first Silent Hill game. After their projects weren't greenlit, these guys split from Japan Studio in the year 2020 and went on to form Boca Game Studio. Their very first game was revealed at the Game Awards in 2021. This is Slitterhead. It's definitely leaning into the director's horror roots rather than Gravity Rush, but there's a lot of supernatural action going on too. I am very, very interested. I tried looking up staff and directors for Ape Escape, but unfortunately it's very slim pickings out there. Either their credits haven't been documented, or they're just not working in the games industry anymore. And that's certainly the case for the director of Legend of Dragoon. He went from Final Fantasy VI to Mario RPG to Legend of Dragoon to running an R&D studio for security. I'm sure he's earning the big bucks, but that is a bummer. A lot of franchises we loved in the past simply won't continue as they were. But instead of pessimism, let's embrace and support the ones that are doing their own thing. It's tough out there for games like this, but we can never encourage innovation if we're just doing the same thing repeatedly. I am frankly jaded of the AAA landscape. It's become incredibly flat and every game is just morphing into one another. They all look the same. I need games like Arm Fantasia and Penny Blood to feel something. So give them your support. These games are more than just memories. They're doing their own thing right now. And if you want them, then help them. A lot of these haven't had entry since the PlayStation 2, and there's so much more you can do with them. And as visionaries like Ueda, Shadow of the Colossus is one of the most important games for the PlayStation 2, one of the most important games of all time, and I am so excited to see whatever he does next. Cannot understate the importance of this stuff. Just because they are not fortuned to sell millions upon millions, doesn't mean the industry isn't better for them. It helps absolutely everyone.